Okay, well, thank you very much for, it's good to be here, and I'm glad to be able to provide a little update from NORTHCOM. So one of General Guillot's 3 priorities is to strengthen the network. We take that priority seriously, and by advancing it daily, we guarantee that in times of crisis, we have well-established relationships to propel us to success. This symposium is an excellent venue for strengthening partner relationships. As many of you know, NORAD and NORTHCOM are 2 separate but complementary commands whose fundamental purpose is to protect the homelands of the United States and Canada. North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, is a binational United States and Canadian command that conducts aerospace warning, aerospace control, and maritime warning. Established in 1958, NORAD centralized continental defenses against the threat of Soviet bombers. For decades, NORAD faced one threat, Russia, from one domain, the air, from one avenue of approach, the Arctic. Today, NORAD defends North America against threats from numerous adversaries across all domains, emanating from every avenue of approach, from seafloor to space. NORTHCOM is, of course, a geographic combatant command established after the tragic events of September 11th, 2001. Operationally validated in response to Hurricane Katrina in 2005, NORTHCOM's area of responsibility includes all air, land, and sea approaches to the United States out to 500 nautical miles, as well as the Greenland landmass and western territorial waters. NORTHCOM's mission area, in partnership with Cybercom and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, also encompasses the cyber domain, where daily intrusions are the most present and persistent threat that we face. Homeland Defense is the core of the NORAD and NORTHCOM mission. Our motto is, "We have the watch," and the commands remain on alert 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, not just at our headquarters at Peterson Space Force Base, but at our alternate command center at Cheyenne Mountain Space Force Station and across more than 40 installations throughout the United States and Canada. Our focus, Homeland Defense, is not only our core mission, it is also the top priority for this administration as described in the 2026 National Defense Strategy. And as the strategic environment has grown more complex, NORAD and NORTHCOM have responded by fundamentally transforming both commands, taking on new missions and rapidly implementing innovative approaches to safeguarding North America. Over the last 20 months, the scope and scale of NORTHCOM missions increased significantly. In addition to our mission to defend our homeland, deter, detect, deny, and defeat threats to the United States, conduct security cooperation activities with allies and partners, and support civil authorities, the command has been tasked with ensuring the territorial integrity of the United States, expanding the command's area of responsibility to include Greenland, synchronizing defense against small unmanned aerial systems in the NORTHCOM AOR, standing up a joint interagency task force focused on countering cartels, and addressing the threat of international narco-terrorist organizations emanating from Mexico. And NORTHCOM is also the supported combatant command for executing a task a lot of y'all are talking about this week, the Golden Dome of America. As General Guillot pointed out in his testimony to the Armed Services Committee in March of this year, North American defense faces a pivotal moment. Threats to the homeland are immediate and complex, originating from a spectrum of state adversaries, narco-terrorists, and malign actors who are actively challenging our security across every domain. Among the many developments that are reshaping the strategic environment, 3 trends are of particular concern to NORAD and NORTHCOM due to their immediate implications for our homeland defense mission. First, the growing cooperation between China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran to challenge the United States. Their transfer of weapons, military technology, and basing access is a cause for significant concern. Second, evolving technologies demand that we rapidly adjust our defense posture. Small, uncrewed aircraft systems proliferate the open market. In the hands of malign actors, these pose a growing threat to safety and security. Likewise, as competitors continue to target U.S. networks and critical infrastructure in cyberspace, a whole-of-government effort is increasingly necessary to mitigate potential harm. And finally, non-state actors, including transnational criminal organizations and designated foreign terrorist organizations, continue to target North America. The convergence of these threat networks, particularly Mexican cartels designated as FTOs, present a direct and ongoing danger to the homeland. And I'll elaborate on each of these. Russian strategic bombers threaten North America from the air, while Russian and Chinese cruise missile-capable ships and submarines use improved stealth capabilities to approach our coastlines, although they can now launch cruise missiles from greater distances as well. The number of penetrations of the North American Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ, by Russian military aircraft has returned to pre-COVID and pre-Ukraine conflict levels of activity. In the last few years, these Russian air patrols off our coastline have grown more complex and less predictable. In July 2024, for the first time, Russia and China flew a combined strategic bomber patrol from the Russian high Arctic into the Alaskan ADIZ. This was the first time we have seen the Chinese H-6 in the Arctic. The Strategic Deterrence Patrol demonstrated a new level of cooperation and access between the two countries, while the basing of Chinese bombers on Russian soil enabled them to threaten far greater portions of the Atlantic, of Alaska than they would otherwise be capable of ranging. NORAD detected and tracked these two Russian T-95 and two Chinese H-6 bombers and intercepted them with a combined package of U.S. and Canadian fighters, demonstrating that integrated air operations, while novel for our adversaries, are routine for NORAD. We have not seen another combined incursion into our ADIZ since 2024, but we continue to see their joint patrols within PACOM's area of responsibility. In the maritime domain, for the last decade, the Russian Navy has performed annual patrols into the Atlantic, and now the Pacific, with its ultra-quiet Severdisk or SEV class of guided missile submarines, bringing portions of North America within range of their long-range land attack cruise missiles. Between 2021 and 2024, the PLA Navy surface combatants patrolled through the Bering Sea near the Aleutian Islands each year and operated within cruise missile range of Alaskan critical infrastructure. While no surface combatants have patrolled this area since 2024, China regularly sends research vessels to the area designated for Arctic research. Since 2022, China has launched 8 Shang 3 class nuclear-powered guided missile submarines and likely will have all 8 operational by 2027, providing the Chinese with a clandestine land attack option against critical infrastructure in Alaska and along the West Coast. Meanwhile, adversaries are developing and fielding advanced nuclear and conventional delivery capabilities, cruise, hypersonic, and ballistic missiles, as well as fractional orbital bombardment systems, or FOBS, to threaten not only Alaska and Hawaii, but the entire continental United States. The Chinese are developing ICBMs equipped with hypersonic glide vehicles, as well as FOBS weapons that can approach North America from the south rather than the traditional northerly vector for which our legacy early warning radars were designed. Such systems would erode strategic stability by degrading our ability to provide granular and actionable warning of an inbound attack. The Chinese have also begun fielding a conventional armed ICBM equipped with hypersonic glide vehicles that can range targets throughout Alaska, providing Chinese leaders strike options against our homeland below the nuclear threshold. Russia's advanced missiles, like the nuclear-armed Avangard hypersonic glide vehicle, are designed to circumvent the ground-based radars used by NORAD and NORTHCOM to detect and characterize an inbound threat and challenge the ability to provide threat warning and attack assessment. And finally, the North Koreans have successfully flight tested ICBMs with enough boost to deliver a nuclear payload anywhere in North America, and in October of 24 unveiled a new ICBM design that may be designated to carry multiple nuclear-armed reentry vehicles. In the era of strategic competition, we recognize that geography no longer provides the protection and standoff range of the past, and a more robust approach is needed to defend the United States and Canada. This is visible in the cyber domain, where thousands of attempts are made daily to breach our networks, originating from known state actors and an ever-growing, hard-to-detect and defeat network of non-state actors. Foreign terrorist organizations are fueling violence and destabilization, proliferating human trafficking, drug trafficking, and driving migration in the United States and her allies. The threats to North America are real and persistent, and they radiate from every point of the compass. As these examples illustrate, defense of the homeland requires a deep and broad network, starting with and through our international partners. By design, NORAD is a binational command, and our relationship with Canada is a critical component of North American air and maritime security. Additionally, regional security cooperation relationships remain a critical element of NORTHCOM's mission. NORTHCOM relies on Canada, Mexico, Greenland, and the Bahamas for intelligence gathering and disaster response. Information sharing and joint exercises with NATO and EUCOM are increasing to establish an Arctic bridge between NORAD, NATO, NORTHCOM, and EUCOM. Homeland Defense necessitates a close working relationship with our higher headquarters. For NORAD and NORTHCOM, this includes the Office of the Secretary of War and the Joint Staff, who have worked diligently to provide our commands with the authorities, resources, and latitude to execute our assigned missions, as well as the Chief of Defense Staff and Canadian Joint Operations Center for access to Canadian forces and the integration necessary for success. The commands also work closely with the services, who are critical to ensuring that we have not only the essential human capital, but also technological capabilities required to meet the Homeland Defense mission. Homeland Defense is also a multi-component endeavor. Throughout the commands, formations across active duty, the National Guard, and the reserves execute Homeland Defense missions. General Guillot refers to this as our command's special sauce. Due to the limited number of assigned forces, the success of our mission starts and stops with the National Guard and Reserve forces. So strong relationships at both the national and state levels are imperative for success in Homeland Defense, DSCA, and theater security cooperation. Cross-combatant command coordination, both geographic and functional, is another essential component of Homeland Defense. Threats to North America will undoubtedly originate in another geographic combatant command, AOR, and NORTHCOM priority targets are likely to be found outside of our own, necessitating coordination and deconfliction for prosecution. NORTHCOM shares a close working relationship with SOUTHCOM, EUCOM, and PACOM, passing threats as they transition across AOR boundaries and resource sharing to maximize force management. In addition to our integration with SpaceCom and CyberCom, NORTHCOM is fully nested with STRATCOM to maintain strategic deterrence. And in global conflict, the command is prepared to work alongside TRANSCOM to secure force projection capability. NORAD and NORTHCOM's interagency relationship make it unique among the geographic combatant commands. For example, NORTHCOM is tasked as the Department of War's lead interagency synchronizer for both DSCA and Counter-UAS. In short, we cannot execute our assigned missions without the intelligence, expertise, resources, and access the interagency provides. In its role as lead synchronizer for DSCA, the Department of War provides support through NORTHCOM in support of a lead federal agency like the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, or the National Interagency Fire Center, or NIFC, during extreme times of need for our fellow citizens. My boss's guidance is very clear with regards to DSCA. In time of need, no one waits on NORTHCOM. This approach demands proactive outreach between myself and state adjutants generals and engaged staff work from the NORTHCOM team to track potential disasters and set conditions to support as quickly as possible. NORTHCOM deployed 3 UH-60 helicopters in support of FEMA during Snowstorm Firm in January of this year. The helicopters conducted missions transporting FEMA personnel and equipment, including generators, into affected areas. And most recently, NORTHCOM has provided a total of 4 modular airborne firefighting systems, or MAFs, capable C-130 aircraft to suppress wildland fires in California and Oregon. Since July 10th, those aircraft have flown over 180 sorties, effectively suppressing the advancement of 29 large fires. In addition to MAFs, NORTHCOM deployed 250 active duty Army soldiers from the 1st Battalion 23rd Infantry Regiment stationed at JBLM to assist the National Interagency Fire Center in Washington State. We also depend on industry partners to ensure that we are equipped with state-of-the-art capabilities necessary to retain technological superiority over our adversaries. NORAD and NORTHCOM rely on the expertise provided by think tanks and academia partners who provide research and valuable perspectives to solving complex challenges facing our commands. Operations on the southern border are an excellent example of the significant level of coordination and partnership required for success in that mission. A whole-of-government effort to seal and repel has seen dramatic reductions in the flow of narcotics and illegal migration. Intelligence operations leverage expertise and capabilities from other interagency elements, inform and drive southern border operations. Joint Task Force Southern Border, the operational arm of the Southern Border Mission in support of the U.S. Border Patrol, is currently led by 1st Armored Division and comprised an echelon of Army, Marine, and National Guard units with Air Force, Navy, Space Force, Cybercom, and Coast Guard units and capabilities directly supporting the mission. From October 27th of 25 through July the 6th of 26, a little over 8 months, engineers have reinforced over 2,900 kilometers of barriers, cleared over 3,000 kilometers of vegetation, and repaired 31 kilometers of roads. Aviation assets have executed over 3,900 rotary sorties, 10 air assaults, 9 sling load operations, and 266 ISR missions. All of this is dramatically increasing operational reach and interdiction. While Americans patrol on the U.S. side of the border, Mexican partners, both military and civilian law enforcement, take action south of the border, arresting cartel members, destroying drug labs, and curtailing trafficking operations. As a supported combatant command for the Golden Dome of America, we collaborated with SpaceCom on validating the Golden Dome Initial Capabilities document. This ensures the Golden Dome space layer is well defined, reflects the Commander SpaceCom perspective, and strengthens the overall document. We are working closely with the GDA Direct Report Program Manager's Office to ensure the capabilities being developed and fielded meet the operational requirements for integrated air and missile defense of the homeland. On January the 15th of 25, NORTHCOM established Joint Task Force Gold, led initially by Sean Gainey and now by Lieutenant General John Rafferty, who, as most of you know, is dual-hatted as the Commanding General of Army Space and Missile Defense Command here in Huntsville. We established this JTF to enhance the integration and synchronization of the Homeland's IAMD enterprise. JFT Gold interacts closely with the GDA program management team to align all domain defensive capabilities with validated command requirements while providing the personnel, testing, and logistics necessary to field GDA capabilities as quickly and efficiently as possible. Moving to the growing UAS threat, in November 2024, NORTHCOM was designated by the Secretary of War to serve as the lead synchronizer for Homeland Counter-Small Unmanned Aircraft Systems. This role allows us to align and focus various Homeland Counter-UAS efforts into a cohesive approach to include synchronizing, integrating, and coordinating efforts within our AOR. This designation involves preparing to conduct counter-UAS operations, establishing and maintaining a response plan, and tracking and responding to UAS incidences. In this role, we have oversight over installations within the homeland, each with varying degrees of defense capability and criticality. While the responsibility for defense of these installations remains with the local commander and the respective service, U.S. NORTHCOM stands ready to assist during incident response and in the development of specific detect, track, identify, and defeat capabilities to counter advancing drone threats. Our efforts in the area of counter-UAS include experimentation through the Falcon Peak exercise, flyaway kit sourcing, National Capital Region shared early warning, and development of a counter-UAS vendor ecosystem. The Falcon Peak exercise series is a joint venture between NORTHCOM and JIATA 401 to provide a formal framework for demonstrating, assessing, and integrating new counter-UAS technologies and procedures. Falcon Peak 26.2 will take place over the coming weeks, from August 31st to September 25th at Yuma Proving Ground, and will showcase industry capabilities to counter UAS threats with a focus on low collateral defeat along the southern border. NORTHCOM's Homeland Counter-UAS Flyaway Kit team proactively provided protection capabilities during some of this year's celebrations for the nation's 250th birthday and the FIFA World Cup. The FACT plays an essential role and is part of a greater interagency security collaboration for events requiring robust protection postures that involve counter-UAS measures. NORTHCOM accomplishes all of these critical missions by dividing forces into two main types, just-in-case forces and just-in-time forces. Our just-in-case forces are those that must be ready 24/7, like the 100th Missile Defense Brigade, who has the watch manning ground-based interceptors that defend the United States from rogue nation ICBMs, or Operation Noble Eagle fighters, AWACS, and tankers. Just-in-case forces are not efficient, but the cost of not having them ready to respond is high. The Space and Missile Defense Command's 100th Missile Defense Brigade, stationed in Colorado Springs, and their major subordinate element, the 49th Missile Defense Battalion, based at Fort Greely, Alaska, employ ground-based interceptors at Fort Greely and Vandenberg Space Force Base, California, in the exceptionally critical role of defending against rogue nation ICBM threats. As of 2024, SMDC assumed operational control of the 100th Missile Defense Brigade, meaning that these units are organized, trained, equipped, and command and controlled through SMDC. In 2025, SMDC expanded their role as the Army Service Component Command for all Army and Air and Missile Defense Forces assigned to NORTHCOM. Just-in-time forces are vital, but have time to get in place given the operational situation and/or indicators and warnings. Examples of this are the Maritime, Homeland Defense, and DSCA forces. The Secretary of War issues an exord allocating the forces, and we can activate them as quickly as the situation requires, normally within 24 to 96 hours. Homeland Defense starts with domain awareness, best defined as timely, relevant, and actionable understanding of the operational environment. And I think if you've listened to the panels this week, you've heard it more than once, but we cannot defeat what we cannot see. And the Homeland Defense enterprise must obtain and integrate advanced systems that will detect adversaries from the seafloor to space and at increasing ranges from North America. Every NORAD and NORTHCOM mission relies on relationships and integration to ensure success. Homeland Defense is truly a team sport, and no one entity can ensure the safety and security of the Western Hemisphere alone. We work alongside and through our allies and partners across the services, combatant commands, and interagency, while leveraging the expertise provided by industry, academic, and think tank partners. In the future, the Homeland Defense mission areas assigned to NORAD and NORTHCOM will only grow more complex and challenging. We will continue to adapt and rise to meet those challenges. We have the watch. Thank you very much, and I think we've got some questions.
Yes, sir, we have several. Yes, sir. Thank you, General Gillard. We have several questions from the audience, if you don't mind. In the Homeland, the technology to detect a UAS may be moving, well, we all know it's moving fast, but it may be moving faster than the authorities to act against it. Where do you see the general seam today between detection, attribution, authority, and the ability to actually defeat a threat?
So I agree that things are moving faster. One of the things that we're doing is with our Operation Noble Eagle mission, which really takes care of protecting the aircraft that are not where they're supposed to be, or potentially hijacked, those type things. We are integrating some of the TTPs that we use in that mission to also incorporate with the Counter-UAS mission. So some of that is just a natural flow from that O&E mission. But the other problem is, detection is obviously the biggest issue, and so how we are able to detect is one of our biggest concerns right now. We're using the assets that we have, radars, et cetera, and then tying that into, more and more it's going to be also involving local law enforcement, because it's not just installations, Army or military installations, but it's also things like we did with the interacting with the federal authorities and local law enforcement with respect to the FIFA World Cup. We've got to be interoperable with the systems that they're procuring, using, utilizing, and they've all got to talk together. And so those are, that's where we've got to get to with respect to the interoperability between not just military systems, but also those that are protecting our cities, critical infrastructure, et cetera, that are off our installations.
Thank you, sir. Next question. How do you see NORAD, NORTHCOM authorities and operations evolving as Golden Dome for America unfolds, with its increasing operational integrated air and missile defense capabilities brought to it by JTF Gold?
I think I read I wasn't able to listen to General Zellman yesterday, but I read some of his remarks this morning, and I do think that we've got to meld some of the task and capabilities that we've kept a little bit separate in the past. And so detection and then response to things, we've got to utilize that and work together a little bit better. And then because it's all going to be interchanged or interoperable, or we're going to do it differently because of what Golden Dome is designed to do, and that's protect the entire United States and North America. And so it's not going to be just NORAD and NORTHCOM doing that. Obviously, we rely on SpaceCom and their assets and the things that they do, but it's going to have to be more seamless, and we're going to have to work together better to understand and to make quicker decisions with respect to how we react to some of those threats, because they're going to be more numerous, and we're going to have to make decisions in real time a lot faster than we've been doing in the past. So I think we're still working on how that all is going to work out, and we're constantly talking about those type problems, but I don't think we've gotten to the solution yet.
I understand, sir. Pulling on that thread a little bit, when there's a conflict for resources between COCOMs, who plays the ultimate referee?
Well, I'm not sure I can answer that question. I mean, obviously it goes to, the chairman's going to get a vote, and then the secretary is going to make a decision. So, that's between the combatant commanders and secretaries. So I'm not going to dive into that one, I don't think.
Thank you, sir. We talk about, and you addressed it quite well, the threat of inexpensive drones, which are proliferating the threat space. The next threat to the homeland can be a swarm of inexpensive drones launched from inside our own borders, rather than a missile approaching from thousands of miles away. Does NORAD have the sensor coverage, authorities, and decision speed necessary to respond?
No.
And could you comment on that and on the gap today, the biggest gap you see?
Well, I mean, we don't have the sensors. and we're not, you know, depending on where that swarm is going to attack, depends on whether we have any sensors at all, and so, and also whether we've got any effectors to get after that problem. So, you know, we are ill-equipped right now to handle something like that, and obviously that is, we've seen it used. We're seeing it used on a daily basis around the world, and we've got to figure out how to mitigate that threat, and but we're not there yet.
Thank you, sir. With the this is a very interesting question. I know you're on top of this, sir. As the Arctic sea ice diminishes, it makes the high north increasingly accessible. Russia's geography gives it an inherent proximity to the northern approaches of both Canada and the United States. Does that make the U.S.-Canadian integration more important than ever? And where do you see the most urgent capability gap we need to address together?
So I would say yes to the U.S.-Canadian relationship, but I'll also tell you that we're, as I mentioned, we're working with NATO, COCOM, and just right now, today, well, earlier yesterday, I think, is when General Geo left Greenland with the Danish Chod, flew to Alaska, and so we're obviously working with the Danes and other NATO allies. That it's I've only been there for I guess a little over 7 months now, but we've had numerous NATO country Chods come through the headquarters, probably many more than we've had in many years. But we all understand the importance of the Arctic, and so we're working, as I mentioned, we're trying to establish that Arctic bridge where we can erase the seams between us, COCOM, NATO, PACOM, et cetera. And so that gets, you know, after how we're going to respond, if you will, to that, what you mentioned. I don't know that I can say that there's a biggest gap right now. We have pretty good domain awareness there. We are, obviously, they pretty much have to come through the Aleutians or close to the Aleutians there to get up into the Arctic for the most part from the Pacific. And our NATO allies and COCOM have a good eye on things that are coming from their AO. So we're pretty aware of anything that is moving into that area. So we've got a pretty decent domain awareness there, and so I don't know that that's a gap. But then with respect to the Arctic, everything is harder in the Arctic. And so General Geo directed that we normally do exercises in the north in the summertime. So this year we did some in February. And you realize that trying to operate equipment in February, things don't work like they do when it's a little bit warmer or not in that AO. And so we're learning those hard lessons, trying to figure out how to winterize some of the equipment that we have to enable it to operate in the Arctic and doing those type things. So we do have a lot of lessons to learn there, but we are paying attention and continuously looking at how we can maintain domain awareness and mitigate any threats that we see in the Arctic.
Thank you, sir. I've got an interesting question here. How is NORTHCOM, sir, addressing the required energy security in terms of the electrification of systems and command and control centers?
So that's a good one. I'm not sure that, you know, we are aware of the some of the issues with respect to that. We are also, you know, obviously some of our critical infrastructure requires some of that those energy sources, and so I will say that we have that's on our radar, but it hasn't necessarily risen to the level that that we have, you know, we're considered or we consider it to be a problem that we have to deal with directly right now.
Thank you, General Gerard. That concludes the questions that I have for you, sir. Thank you so very much for being with us this morning.
Thank y'all again. Thank you.